I know your family's in Vasylkiv, which is about 20 kilometers from Kyiv, but where are you now?
We actually evacuated to Ternopil, which is out west. It's a city that's been taking in a lot of refugees since the full-scale war broke out. Vasylkiv has a military base. You've been reporting on it quite a bit, I think. We were one of the first ones that heard the explosions when the rockets hit us. So we waited until they stopped and then hopped in the car and moved out west.
So tell me a little bit more about that experience, hearing the air raid sirens, hearing the explosions.
We did not have, sorry, Heather, for interrupting you.
You didn't have any sirens?
We did not have any sirens at the time, no.
You just heard completely explosions. And what happened?
Our windows shook, our doors shook, everything in the house. We have huge panoramic windows in the house, so everything shook. And my husband knew right away because he served in the military in the past. He's actually a disabled veteran by now. So he knew what it was. I did not have any idea, but I sort of felt that that's what was going on. So we heard one explosion, then the second one, and then the third. I ran down the stairs with my son, covering him with a blanket. I don't remember how, honestly. We hid in the room. We only have one room, which is a walk-in closet that had no windows. Everything else has windows in there. My husband packed the things that we needed. The essentials are, we both are in the IT industry, so he packed all the things, laptops, phones, and I packed all the clothing. And then as soon as the explosion stopped, there were about 7 of them. We drove, and driving was terrifying, I'll be honest. Seeing huge lineups at the gas stations, not knowing where it's going to hit next, what road to take, what was the best route to take. We ended up driving a route that usually takes about 6 hours. It ended up being about 12 and a half. But we made it safely here.
To a place that is in your family, correct? It's a family apartment right now?
It's a family apartment, yes. My great-grandmother actually left it for me. She survived the Second World War. She sort of said, don't sell it, keep it for yourself. You never know what might happen. And now I'm here. I actually grew up, yeah.
That's extraordinary that we were talking about how your country has not seen any of this kind of violence since 1941 and the invasion, and they were back in an apartment that protected your grandmother from that time.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine, not even having any air raid, any warning. And there had been a lot of discussion prior, Yuliya, to it won't happen, stay calm, it's going to be fine. And then suddenly the bombs and the explosions.
Yeah, I went to get my groceries on the 23rd. We went shopping. I drove with my son to the supermarket. There was nothing. We live in a gated community that's about 5 kilometers away from an air base, even less. It's about 3.5 if you go straight through the field. So we're used to hearing military planes flying over our heads. We're used to that. We actually liked watching our Ukrainian military fly. My son usually points up to the sky when he sees a Ukrainian military plane, so he's used to that. But that was not the sound of it, and yeah, it's scary.
How are you dealing with your son? How are you keeping him safe? I know he's just obviously very little, but what are you telling him about what's going on?
He's a toddler, so on one hand, it's terrifying, but on the other hand, I'm glad that he doesn't really fully understand and grasp what's going on. My neighbor that ended up evacuating the next day, and she's with us right now with her kids. They're a bit older, they're 6 and 9, so she's been forced to explain a lot of things to them, and the girls had to grow up very quickly. And they're scared, and every little noise that they hear from a neighbor, we both live in private homes, so being in an apartment building, obviously you hear the neighbors, knocking on things, closing doors. They flinch every single time, and they're scared. You can tell that they are.
Do you feel safe though where you are in this location at the moment?
At the moment, yes. Ternopil has been, one of those cities in Western Ukraine that's been harboring a lot of refugees, that's been taking on a lot of people, and there have been great organizing shelters and food drives. They've been really excellent at it. So again, right now, at this point, I feel safe here, but I'm not going to say that I'm going to stay here, permanently. But for now, I don't want to leave Ukraine. I believe that I'm going to go back to my home in Vasylkiv. I have a beautiful home. We just ended up doing the landscaping. I really want to go home. I want this war to end. And I hope the world finally sees Russia for what it is and what it's doing to Ukraine.
Well, I wanted to ask you that. What do you want Canada to know at this point? The country where you spent so much of your life, Yuliya. What do you want us to know here?
I always say that Canada is my mom that raised me. Ukraine's the one that gave birth to me, and Canada is the one that raised me. Canada has been great. Canadian Ukrainians and even Canadians of different backgrounds have been, they've been at the forefront of helping people, helping the refugees. I know that they're gathering aid and supplies and money, and I know the government's doing all they can to help support Ukrainians and help end this war. And I hope that, Canada has been instrumental in putting on sanctions and stopping Putin as much as they can diplomatically. I just want the world to see for what it is and call it a war. It is a war, and Russia needs to be stopped. Putin needs to be stopped. And I truly hope that's going to happen.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Putin needs to be stopped. I'm interested in yes. The people who are stopping him thus far. I had an interesting conversation earlier with a man in another part of your country and asked him this question. I'm interested in your perspective too. What do you think of the strength and defiance of the Ukrainian fighters and of your president in staying in Kyiv and in standing up so strongly in the face of Russia?
I'm very proud of our president. I'm very proud of him. I support him fully. I think, he's been at the forefront of it. And I think a lot of people underestimated him for what he is as far as a leader. I think he's shown and he's proved that the fact that he's a strong leader. I think Ukrainian soldiers, I'm married to a former Ukrainian soldier, but I'm married to him, and I'm proud of the Ukrainian army. I support them, and I believe they're resilient, they're defiant, and we're going to win. We're going to win this because the truth is behind us, and Ukraine is going to persevere, and we're all going to go back home, and this nightmare has to end for all of us.